Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2021 City Council Forum. Thank you to all of the Compass seniors who have put in so much hard work this past few weeks to put this event together. My name is Lily Browning, and I will be your Master of Ceremonies tonight. We will start by introducing the candidates. Running for second seat, we have Lisa Burtonshaw. Ms. Burtonshaw grew up in Idaho and earned a degree in mechanical engineering at BYU. Ms. Burtonshaw has 4 kids, contributed a lot to the local elementary school's PTO, and served 10 years on the D91 school board. In April of 2021, Mayor Casper appointed her onto the City Council. Also running for second seat, we have Sandra Hokinson. Ms. Hokinson was born in Russia and at the age of 16 was adopted by a family from the U.S. She's lived in Idaho for the past 17 years, is a full-time mom of 3, substitute teacher, fitness instructor, and has nearly completed her bachelor's in social work. Ms. Hokinson believes in core values such as integrity, transparency, and freedom of choice. For fourth seat, we have Mr. Jim Francis. Mr. Francis has lived in Idaho since 1953 and graduated from Idaho Falls High School in 1966. Mr. Francis went to college out of state. He completed his undergrad and graduate. He moved back to Idaho in 1977 to teach history. He believes leadership is finding a balance between maintaining moderation and the principles of government. Also running for fourth seat, we have Mr. Robert Thompson. He graduated from IF High School in 1992. He earned his Eagle Scout Award, went on a 2-year mission to Denmark, is an active leader of his church, and is an assistant wrestling coach at Idaho Falls High School. He has a degree in business administration, and family is very important to him. He is running because he wants to make sure Idaho Falls is a great place for children to grow up. Running for sixth seat, we have Mr. Jim Freeman. Mr. Freeman grew up on the number street of Idaho Falls and attended Idaho Falls High School and the University of Idaho. Both his father and grandfather served on the Idaho Falls City Council. Mr. Freeman has 2 children and 3 grandchildren. He started working at the Idaho Falls Fire Department in 1986. During the time of 26 years, he was a fireman, a paramedic, and captain of the Idaho Falls Fire Department. He retired in 2012 and now serves the community by volunteering and teaching golf and hockey. And finally, we have Kari Caldwell, who unfortunately was not able to attend tonight. Zoe Johnson will be acting as our moderator tonight. Melody Brown is our timekeeper. Heather Jensen as running the light system. And Francesca Garcia Polson as the graphics manager. Please make sure to silence your cell phones, and I will turn the floor over to Ms. Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily. Welcome to the Idaho Falls City Council Candidate Forum. I ask the audience to respect the other audience members, the candidates, and the facility. Due to timing of this event, we will keep our timing system fairly strict. I'll ask a question, and 2 opposing candidates will have 1 minute and 15 seconds to respond. Then we will go down the line, and everyone else will have 45 seconds to say their response. To allow for more time for questions, we will not be doing rebuttals. We ask the candidates to keep within their time frame and don't interrupt other candidates when they are giving their responses. We have a lighting system to help you keep track of the time. When it is your time to respond, it'll turn green. And with 15 seconds left of your time, it'll turn yellow. When it turns red, it'll be the end of your turn and you're expected to end your response. We expect you to remain seated at your table during the whole debate as to not mess up the microphones. For our opening and closing questions, every candidate will get 1 minute to respond. For our first question, we will have Councilwoman Burtonshaw start us off. What inspired you to run for City Council?
So I had served on the school board for 10 years, and then in 2018, I got off of the school board. And then COVID hit, and I just felt like the community had really kind of hit a real negative, and so what I did is I joined with some friends, and we decided that we were going to help the school district to create some ball diamonds that are much needed south of town for a lot of our student athletes. And just joining that, just being able to be part of that again, it really inspired me to want to be part of something again. And one thing that in particular is that I feel like when my experience from the school board, when people want to engage the government, they really don't know how or when to engage is best. I've learned that from the school board.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hokinson.
For me, it was the community. I feel like with COVID and just the last couple of years, I feel like that the people in the community have not been heard. I feel like that some of the decisions that have been made by our city government have not been completely in full transparency. And because of that, I decided that I want to bring that back to the community. I want to bring the community together. I feel like people in the community deserve a chance to say what matters to them, to have a choice in the decisions that are made in our community. And that's the main reason I decided to run for city council.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilman Francis.
There are 4 things that inspired me to run for council. 2 of them are very deep. Thomas Jefferson gave us this whole principle of democracy. James Madison gave us the idea we could solve problems as a community or as a nation. And then there is, of course, my teaching itself, where my students taught me a tremendous amount about how to understand and apply democracy. And 4th, Mr. Ed Marone, who was a council member 4 years ago and came to me and said that he was not able to run again, and he placed the trust in me to take this position. So I, after much thought, said yes.
Thank you so much. Mr. Thompson.
I'm a 4th generation Idahoan. My great-grandfather, David Smith, came to Idaho Falls, started Smith Chevrolet, and was a leader in the community. He rolled the stones away, tilled the ground, and laid the foundation for a great community here, a great business-friendly, family-friendly community. And my desire is to preserve that, to help it stay safe and friendly for my family, for my children, and those generations yet to come.
Thank you. Councilman Freeman.
Thank you. My journey to city council started when I was young. My dad and my grandfather both served on the council, and then I worked for the city for 26 years. Between my father, my grandfather, and myself, we've been involved in city government for 64 years. And I think the government closest to the people makes the biggest difference. I think that the most difference you can make is at this level. There's no partisanship involved with it. There's no reason to look beyond our borders to fix what we need to fix here. I mean, the time I've spent in city government and the time I've spent with the fire department, I think I have a very good understanding of how Idaho Falls thinks and how Idaho Falls feels about things, and I listen to a lot of people, and it inspires me to try to make a difference at this level. So, thank you.
Thank you all so much. We will be moving on to our next question. For these questions, 2 opposing candidates will get 1:15 to respond, and everyone else will get 45 seconds. We are going to be starting off with, Councilman Francis. As our city grows, some areas receive more attention than others. Citizens we spoke to mentioned concern about the roads and sidewalks in disrepair, as well as blighted areas of the city. What areas would you prioritize for repair or revitalization?
Yeah, priorities are very important. And the first step in priorities is to put together a plan that particularly does address areas that are in need. We have 2 plans in place already, one for the Northgate area along Yellowstone and another one for the areas between Broadway and Pancary. And our job is to take those forward, and the city's job is to provide the catalysts that make those exciting places for businesses and residents. And why would it be making sense that we put a little bit more into those communities and other communities? Because when the whole city is prosperous, when the whole city has an image that people want to live in, then the whole city is attractive to everyone and everyone benefits. So that's why it's acceptable in my mind to give a little more to these areas that need that. Now, how do you do it specifically? If you take the Northgate area, one of the reasons that we chose the old stockyards as the location for the new, I call it the Community Law Enforcement Center, that Community Law Enforcement Center was deliberately chosen as a beginning catalyst to help develop that area, and it has already begun to attract new businesses there. So that kind of thing can work in the same place from Broadway to Pancary and every other area of the city. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Thompson.
Growth is very important and it's inevitable, but frankly, we will not be able to handle any form of growth in this city unless we act in a fiscally responsible way. The city police station, for example, everybody needs a police station. We need a police station here in this city. However, they decided to fund the city police station through this thing called the Certificate of Participation. Certificate of Participation limits city government on taxes that they can raise for the project, and it can put our city's finances in basically back it into a corner. And so I think that the most important thing is making sure that we plan for the future, plan for these things, and basically make sure that our finances are in line with the growth of the city.
I'd like to mention once again, we would love the audience to remain silent. Councilman Freeman, your response.
As already has been spoken about, growth is inevitable, and so we must manage how growth happens. But you know, we have to take care of the stuff that we already have too. We can't just keep growing and disregard the older areas of our city. And so, the question you ask about roads and sidewalks in disrepair, we do have plans in place to replace roads and sidewalks, and we're doing it at the pace that we can afford to do. We're not spending beyond our means. There are always more needs than there is revenue, and so we do have to prioritize these things. My priority at this time, I think, most importantly, what we're looking at is the south of Broadway area.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Burtonshaw.
Okay. I would add to what the other two councilmen had previously said, is that there are plans for South Downtown and the Northgate Mile area and First Street. And those plans were not developed in a vacuum by the city. It was developed by community members from those areas. And I'm sure that some of those issues were brought up by the people that you talked to, because it was the same people that the city talked to. And those are the areas that really need the revitalization. The city does have plans to move forward. Some of that is using urban renewal money. There's federal grants, and it's really up to the city council to budget those in properly so that they can get fixed in a way that adds the connectivity to those areas as well as every other area.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hokinson.
I think I completely agree. Our town is growing, it's getting bigger, and the main thing I think is we need to focus on what we have right now and what needs to be done in our town. I think road repair is great. I think the 17th Street needs to be taken in consideration. There's been a lot of accidents with a lot of traffic, but I agree with Mr. Thompson. Like you said, we need to plan for the future and we need to have a budget in place before we do those things.
Thank you so much. Moving on to our next question, Councilman Freeman will be the first to respond. Many Idaho Falls citizens have raised concerns about our city's lack of a public transportation system. They point out that Pocatello has had a successful public busing system for over 40 years, even though it has a smaller population than Idaho Falls. How do you envision the future of public transportation in Idaho Falls?
It's kind of ironic. We just had a meeting today at the Bonneville Metropolitan Planning Organization, of which I'm the chair of the policy board, and we talked about this very subject. We do have a plan in place to start a public transportation system again in Idaho Falls. It's called GIFT, Greater Idaho Falls Transit. And we're going to start a 2-year pilot program. We're going to hire a transportation director as a full-time employee for the city of Idaho Falls. We're going to run this through the city of Idaho Falls, and the state of Idaho is providing the funding at this time from CARES funds. And we're going to do a 2-year pilot with we've got to find a provider, we've got to find a director, and it's going to go forward. And we all on the council at this time realize that a city of our size needs to have a public transit system, and we need to have a way to get people around town and not have them have to drive their car. And it would alleviate so many issues we have with traffic and so forth if we could get fewer cars on the road.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Burtonshaw.
So I'm going to piggyback on that because it is something that we talk about in the city. What this program is it's not a fixed route program. It's a micro transit program where essentially you would be able to call up the provider. It's like an Uber. And you would, say, I need to go to this appointment, or I need to go to that appointment. It's specific for the city of Idaho Falls. And during the pilot program, it would be $1.50 for that ride, and it would be ride sharing. So it might take you a half an hour or 45 minutes to get to your appointment, because along the way, they're going to pick up someone else, and they'll pick up someone else. This is a program that would be sent out through an RFP process in the city of Idaho Falls. We would get a provider who would be well qualified to run this program, and they would have hopefully had experience elsewhere doing this kind of a program. It's not new to the city of Idaho Falls, but it's a model that we're looking at. Fixed routes haven't worked for us in the past. They're just too expensive. And so we're looking at this as a pilot program so we can get the kind of data for ridership and costs that we would need in the city of Idaho Falls to provide this.
Thank you. Ms. Hokinson.
I think it's a great idea, something to look into in the future. But at the moment, I think getting something like that would compete with private companies that we have, like Uber or Lyft, which are more responsive to the market demands and the people. So something that we can explore maybe later, but we need to think about the smaller businesses that we have around here in our community.
Thank you. Councilman Francis.
Yes, thank you. So we've talked a little bit up here about budget previously. This particular program is within budget, definitely, because it's based on a federal grant, and that will fund it entirely for its pilot period of 2 years. It's important to note that, in my view, you don't waste federal money either, because that's taxpayer money like any other. But in this case, if we're going to be a big city, as we are, and a growing city, as we are, we have to provide transportation. I looked carefully at the model to make sure it did not compete with Lyft and Uber. It does not. It's a different ride system, so it does still protect the private enterprise, yet at the same time, it will serve this community in a way that's definitely needed if we're going to become the city that we are.
Thank you so much. Mr. Thompson.
I lived in Denmark for a few years, and it was pretty amazing that you'd go to a bus stop, and every 5 minutes on the dot, there would be a bus that would show up and take you anywhere you wanted. Those cities are very different. They have large populations in the center. They also have very small roads and not windy roads, and things aren't easy to access. Idaho Falls is a growing city, but I think you can basically get from one side to the other in 20 minutes. I would be in favor of a transportation system. However, I would not be in favor of the city subsidizing that transportation system. The transportation would have to pay for itself. And if it could, and if it was feasible, then I would be in favor of something like that.
Thank you so much. For our next question, we are going to start off with Ms. Hokinson. Many Idaho Falls citizens are very active and enjoy getting out of the house. While the parks here in Idaho Falls are well maintained and are a great way to recreate, many citizens want an alternative for the winter months. What opportunities does Idaho Falls have to create more indoor recreation facilities?
I think our city has great facilities that are already in place. I think that what we need to do first is take care of the things that we already have. I think we need to maintain those things, fix some things up. We have an amazing aquatic center. I think if that can be, maintained better and things can be maybe updated, we can use that for our winter month, and there's other great facilities. And so I think our main focus should be focusing on the things that we already have in our town. If we can take care of those things, then maybe in the future we can think about something else. But I don't think we need anything bigger like a community center because it's just going to compete with all the smaller businesses that we have here.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Burtonshaw.
Okay, so there is a plan right now for the pool to be fixed. The pool is over 30 years old, and our recreation department is overprogrammed and way overused. Because we are a regional pool for all of the swim teams, the ice rink also overprogrammed. So our city pool is going to shut down for 6 months so we can make those repairs. But even when it reopens, it will still be at full capacity. So I do think that there are ways using public-private partnerships. It's something that has worked well in the past decade to be able to join privately with ways that don't compete with our private businesses. We don't have another pool. We don't have another ice rink. There are certain programs that we could really join with federal money and public money and private money so that we would be able to improve our facilities and offer those extra amenities to people in the winter months.
Thank you so much. Councilman Francis.
Yes, thank you. So when I was going door to door some time ago, I knocked on a door and a woman said, right away, there's a park in our neighborhood, but it only has one kind of activity in it, and my children don't play that activity. Can you do something about that? Variety. So when I talked to the director of Parks and Rec about more variety in the parks, and it's something we've been working on as he and I together, and I totally support that. Try to have variety. As for indoor recreation facilities, we know we have weaknesses. And so it's that classic thing. We have a plan, then we prioritize, and then we implement.
Thank you so much. Mr. Thompson.
It's funny you ask. I just got a question, an email today from a person that says, I just sent in my property tax survey and talked to my assessor. It looks like I may be taxed out of my home. I think it's great, these things, these community center, and everybody wants utopia, right? I'm a cyclist. I would like a velodrome in the city, right? Everybody wants their own little activity, and they want the city to subsidize that activity. And so first, I think that we need to worry about the widow who's being taxed out of her home. It's on a fixed income that can't pay her taxes because the city of Idaho Falls tax rate is one of the highest, if not the highest cities in the state.
Thank you so much. Councilman Freeman.
Thank you. We do quite a few things that are inexpensive for the city to operate for winter recreation. We do have cross-country ski trails that we've been trying to take care of, and the weather's got to cooperate also. We have an ice ribbon that we've been building the last couple of years in Toffus Park. Besides the ice rink that we do operate, we've had a lot of pressure on us to build a second sheet of ice, and I agree with that. If we can do it responsibly and not tax someone out of their house. We are very limited on revenues that we get because of the way the state statutes are set. So the reason people their taxes are raising so quickly is because their values are going up so fast.
Thank you so much. For our next question, Mr. Thompson will be the first to respond. The population growth of Idaho Falls doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon, and neither does the housing demand. Due to the increase in demand, prices for housing and rent have gone up. How could the city's zoning plans allow for more accessible to affordable housing in Idaho Falls?
It's an interesting question. Right now, I have the understanding that the City of Idaho Falls and Bonneville County haven't come together on any kind of a planning and zoning, long-term planning and zoning plan in 4 years. I don't know if it's because of personalities or whatever it is, but it's irresponsible that is going on. Growth is inevitable. People from all over the world are coming here. Californians are leaving by the hundreds of thousands to leave California. Why? Because the taxes are high, the regulations are high, they've got crime there and everything. They're coming here because we don't have those things. We don't want Idaho to turn into California. We don't want high taxes. We don't want high regulation or anything like that, and we need to plan for the future. We need to sit down with our Bonneville County representatives, because we are citizens of Bonneville County, and we need to come together and work for a plan to grow for planning and zoning.
Thank you. Councilman Francis.
Yes. I'm going to quickly answer this question. Then there are a few things I need to say in response to my opponent. But first, in regards directly to this question, this city has over the last 2 years worked very carefully on a new approach to its zoning, including what's called missing middle, which is the idea of building housing in a way that keeps a footprint of a single-family home and yet has more than one dwelling unit within it. It's a creative approach. It doesn't change the character of the city. But I want to say on that police station, we very carefully looked at our budget and knew we could afford it with the money that we were getting at the time. We did not put this city at risk. Those questions were asked in council over and over and over again and studied. Second, that police station was a crisis situation. If we want safety in this community, we had to have this new police station. It was not an option for any responsible council member to not vote for that in that way, as I saw it. 15 years ago, we needed a new police station. We built it this year because we had to do it, and we got the lowest rates possible. Essentially, as a friend told me, a banker, you got 0% interest. That's responsible governing, and it's handling a situation where we needed to keep track of our evidence and our lab better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Freeman.
I'm going to echo Councilman Francis about the missing middle income, or missing housing. We have an Imagine IF plan where we've been gathering feedback from the city, and we are missing affordable housing, and we have changed our zoning laws in the last 3 or 4 years. We've also annexed a lot of properties because the developers are clamoring for places to build multifamily housing, and that's what we're missing in Idaho Falls at this time, in my opinion. And no one wants that in their backyard, but we're trying to make it work, and I think we're working on it, and I think it's going to be successful.
Thank you. Councilwoman Burtonshaw.
So the city does have our own zoning ordinances, and the City of Idaho Falls can adjust those ordinances within the city council to be able to allow for different styles and variety of houses. One that I'm particularly interested in is to be able to allow the ordinances for infill, to be able to have multi-use housing in it. If you consider that the infrastructure, like roads and shopping centers and all of that, is already available, we have infill within our city, we could change the zoning ordinances to allow several houses so that those neighbors are in walkable, easy to access neighborhoods, and it would allow for the softening of the market. I worry that we will all be priced out of this market if we don't do something to soften it.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hokinson.
I think that our zoning laws need to offer maximum flexibility so our our private individuals and companies can respond to our market demand. I mean, we as individuals, people who own houses and properties, we have our land that we have and the houses that we live in, I think our rights need to be respected. So I think we should definitely think about, building everything around everybody else.
Thank you. For our next question, Councilman Freeman will be first to respond. Idaho Falls citizens appreciate the small town feel, as shown in this graphic from the 2021 Imagine IF survey. 1/3 of Idaho Falls citizens who respond to the survey believe that the rapid growth will put this small town feel in jeopardy. How do you plan on preserving the identity of Idaho Falls while accommodating this growth and development?
Well, first of all, I think it's important that we invest in our downtown. And when I talked earlier about the south of Broadway area, redeveloping that area and investing in that area, I think that's something that makes Idaho Falls unique, is that we do have a strong downtown, and it draws people to our downtown. And so that gives us a sense of community. We are spreading out in every direction, and it's hard to keep up with, but we can't build shopping areas in all those areas. So it's important to keep our center and keep our focus on that center to make sure that we have a viable downtown. And we're doing everything we can to make that happen.
Thank you. Councilwoman Burtonshaw.
So I super appreciate this question because it is actually the platform that I am running on, which is that we, as a city council, that we are able to maintain the connectivity that this community really appreciates and thinks is unique to our city. And part of that connectivity is to be able to come out your door and to be able to access other neighborhoods, access the local grocery stores. There's sidewalks. It's a special feeling in Idaho Falls that's kind of unique to Idaho Falls versus the surrounding suburbs. And I would continue to make sure that that connectivity is offered to new residents as the growth moves out. We're creating the trail system along the canals. Those things do matter to people in Idaho Falls. That connection, it really is part of it. And when you live in Idaho Falls, you should be able to be connected to the trail systems, the park systems. We do have a lot of amenities to offer the citizens in Idaho Falls, and I really do believe that that's a core piece of what we find unique in our city.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hokinson.
I think it's definitely important to stay connected and to have access to different areas, but I don't think everybody wants that. Some people do like their privacy. Some people do like to be a little bit, off grid, I guess. So I think, again, it comes down to, respecting people's right and their property and what community wants and what people in the community wants, because some people might want that and other people might not.
Thank you so much. Councilman Francis.
Yes. So keeping our character involves, as Councilor Freeman indicated, starting with downtown, because that's always been an image of the city, and it's an image of any city. When you look at a city, you want to know the downtown. We haven't lost the character downtown. In fact, what's going on down there is almost retro and going back to the way buildings were some time ago. So the city has supported that and will continue to. So when we think about what the character is, we have to think about what that means. I think it means choice for people, options in their choices for housing, and we can keep that. But remember, areas that we like about the town are near the center, and that's where people can walk, and they can walk to nearby things or move quickly to them. So as we expand south or north, we want to still try to maintain that livable, walkable community.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
In my profession, there's a term, it's called canary in the coal mine. And what is the canary in the coal mine of Idaho Falls? You see businesses. I remember as a kid, I saw Walmart move out to Ammon. I saw the Edwards Theater move out to Ammon. I saw all of Hitt Road all build out towards Ammon. You see, for example, the Melaleuca. You think about the infrastructure, the power, the water, the sewer, everything that they had to build out to build where they did. And we're talking about revitalization. If the city would have worked with businesses, or if they would work to lower taxes and have an incentive for businesses to stay in the city, downtown would be revitalized. It'd be done. There'd be restaurants, there'd be sandwich shops, all over the place. And then the tax burden of the people would not only be supported by the people, but also businesses.
Thank you so much. For our next question, Councilwoman Burtonshaw will be the first to respond. In canvassing the community, questions regarding our city's water tower seem to be at the forefront of residents' minds. Do you agree with the proposal to relocate the tower to South Capitol Park near the Art Museum? If yes, why? And if no, where do you propose it be located instead, if all?
Okay, that's a really quick question for a minute and 15. So when I came onto the city council, it had already been moved into South Capitol Park. The plan had already been moved. So from that point on, what I did as a council member is I said, okay, if this is going to be the location for it, what's wrong with this location? The problem with that location is that primarily it encroaches on what's called the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And because we are not in compliance with the Land and Water Conservation Fund, we are losing access to millions of dollars in federal grants to improve our park system. That's a 50% match. So at this point, right now, I do approve of moving the water tower into South Capitol Park. I don't want to go back to the businesses who already came out and spoke at the public meetings. I don't want to go back to those businesses, but we have to be able to mitigate the Land and Water Conservation District so that we are eligible for all of that funding moving forward.
Thank you. Ms. Hokinson.
Water tower. I actually was just reading about it. You know, I think a lot of people, you know, are a little bit upset about it is because that park means something to them. And so people want to preserve that because it's been in Idaho Falls, you know, for many years. So I can definitely understand that. I think there should be options, and which I think there is options to other areas that can be explored, and I think people should have a say and have a firm vote on where the tower should go.
Thank you so much. Councilman Francis.
Yes. The water tower issue is obviously divided elements of this community, but there are certain parameters that are required where it can be, so the location is fairly limited. I worked hard or worked behind the scenes to try to get another piece of property close by. It just fell through. This is the place that it can go. It meets the standards of what will work for the city and keep water pressure on both sides of the river. But I also point out to you that when we come forward with this plan to put the tower there in its final form, that plan will include how we're going to replace that park and how we're going to, not only the section that's used, and how we are going to improve the park itself. So we'll have another park and we'll have improvement of that park to meet some of the needs that the people are asking for now.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
The problems with the tower can be summed up in two issues. Number one, communication. The city of Idaho Falls has 25 websites and they have 3 public communication officers, and they are pushing out a lot of information for people that would go and seek it. However, when you go to their city council meetings, they don't want to hear from you. In fact, they have things on the agenda that make it very difficult to address the council. For one, if they have something on the agenda, you want to talk about it, you can't talk about it. And 2, it's planning. That can go in another place, and there's other things that they can do, and they need to plan. That park, money was given to that park for that park to be there in perpetuity. They can plan for another place.
Thank you so much. Councilman Freeman.
I've been an advocate for not putting the water tower in South Capitol Park for quite some time now. Originally, I supported it, and then I realized that it's the wrong place for it, and I'm totally against it. You know, my grandfather started the Greenbelt, and I think he'd probably roll over in his grave if we build that thing there. I'm sorry to say. The Rotary Club has invested millions of dollars in our Greenbelt, and for us to put that right in smack in the middle of the Greenbelt, I think would be a mistake.
Thank you so much. For our next question, Councilman Francis will be first to respond. The pandemic has changed life in Idaho Falls over the course of the past year. According to the New York Times, Bonneville County's COVID-19 cases on average higher than it was at this time last year. Do you believe our city has done and is currently doing enough to secure the safety of its residents? What ordinances would you consider, if any, to help protect the community from COVID-19 in the upcoming winter?
The first step in response to that is the city's obligation right now is to respond to the Eastern Idaho Public Health. They're the experts and they're the decision makers for the policy itself. From that point, the city needs to be consistent with that. As far as the city itself goes, I did come up with an idea I call the COVID health plan. It's not a mask mandate and it is not a vaccine mandate, but it does make it clear that we will help people get vaccines, the city employees, because we owe it to the public that come in to protect them. And I would include in that the people who do not want get the vaccine. I understand their reasons and we will help them adapt to that. And that could be as simple as paying for their testing and doing that regularly. I don't expect it to be a cost on citizens who work for the city, and I don't expect them to release their private health issues to anyone in the city. They just make the decision. But we will have to work on this so our buildings are safe for everybody who walks in them, at least as safe as we can reasonably make them. I think it can be done, and I think it can be done without forcing people to do a certain thing, giving them options.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
You know, for some of you government students, you can follow along with me. It's in the Declaration of Independence, and I'll go quick. It says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with to their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." So the government is not there to force mandates or to protect us in this way. The governments are in place to protect our rights. We fought a revolutionary war for our rights. We fought a civil war for rights. And now it's unfortunate that this COVID has become such a political thing. It's been politicized. And now we're fighting a cultural war. I've got a father who's got heart problems. I want him to be safe, and I think it's our personal responsibility to and personal decision to do what we can to be friendly to everyone around us and protect us.
Thank you. Councilman Freeman.
Well, we've followed Eastern Idaho Public Health's guidelines throughout the pandemic at the City of Idaho Falls, and we've stayed open for business. It doesn't that things did change. We did operate a lot on Zoom meetings and so forth, but we got business done, and the power stayed on, and the garbage got picked up, and so I think we handled it very well. I think that's the course going forward, that we keep following those guidelines and let the city operate as it should. I don't want to really comment tonight about personal responsibility for people other than myself, that I believe that the vaccines will help us, but it's up to you, I guess.
Thank you. Councilwoman Burtonshaw.
It is not the role of the city government to manage the COVID-19. That is something that we have a health district that is in charge of managing. The role of the city government, the things that we deal with, we approved the annual budget. I have my list here. We established the tax rates. We're board members of Idaho Falls Power and Idaho Falls Fiber and the airport. We see public works, which is the sewer, the water, the roads, and the bridges. We regulate land use through zoning laws. We regulate businesses through licensing regulations. Our plates are full in the city council. It's just about a full-time job. It isn't our responsibility to be regulating COVID. That comes through the health departments.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hokinson.
I think people need to have a choice in what they do. We have our freedom for a reason. So if people want to, vaccinate, let them vaccinate. If they don't need to. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Nobody should be telling anybody what to do. I think our community is capable enough to take care of this issue on their own. I think this is where the common sense comes in. If you're sick, protect yourself, stay home. And if you're healthy, go out and do things that you need to do, but take care of each other.
Thank you so much. This will be our final question of the night, and each candidate will get 1 minute to respond to this one. This question we will start off with Councilman Freeman. What makes you uniquely qualified for City Council?
Well, first of all, it's my experience. 30 years, I guess, now with the City of Idaho Falls. 26 years as a firefighter, paramedic, and a captain on a ladder company. And then 4 years on the council. Also, growing up all those years, watching my dad handle stuff. I didn't have much interaction with my grandfather when he was on the council, but I got to see my dad make those decisions and see how it affected him, and know that I can do this job, and I think after 4 years of doing it, I understand that I belong in that room, and I do understand the issues of Idaho Falls, and I do know the people of Idaho Falls. I lived here my whole life, and I know what we do well, and I know what we don't do so well, and we're working on those things. So I think that's what makes me qualified.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Burtonshaw.
So my years on the school board and then my short time on the city council have really helped me to understand that people don't know when and how to engage in city government. And something that I have worked really hard at doing is being able to know for myself how and when people make the biggest impact. And that's something that I am willing and I regularly share with people, so that this is how we engage publicly. We need a public engagement policy with the city so that we know why we're going to the public for information, and they know, what their information coming back to the city will be used for. I think that I'm in a unique position because we had those kind of public engagement policies at the school district level, and I'm really wanting to bring that to the city as well.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hokinson.
First of all, I'm a mom, and moms are like superheroes, right? We are 24/7. We do everything, raising kids, I'm also in the school system, so I see everything in the things that kids struggle and the teachers struggle. So I'm also a small business owner, so I have qualifications of knowing how to run business and how to run budget. But I think the main thing for me is, listening to the public, listening to the community, making decisions all together as a community, not behind closed doors, all together, giving people that choice to say what they need to say, and just like looking out for our community, looking out for the people, speaking out for those, who want to stand up for the things that need to be done in our community. I think all of that qualifies me.
Thank you so much. Councilman Francis.
I have a unique liaison assignments over my 4 years, and that is I've been liaison to almost all of the departments in the city, including all the key ones. I have power, which all of us are, police, fire, parks, human resources, all the employee relationships, planning, and I haven't been municipal services, but I've been in those offices long enough they think I'm their liaison, and the same for legal because we write documents. Now, what does liaison involve? Liaison involves sitting down with directors for hours, identifying issues, suggesting solutions, and taking those solutions to council. Also, I want to say something that will add to my uniqueness. I actually have got more of the Declaration of Independence than was read. Absolutely, defense of individual rights is part of this responsibility of city government. But so is the next sentence, protect the safety and happiness of plural pronoun there, all of us. And then the final sentence of that Declaration of Independence, the part about the willingness of society to sacrifice to defend these principles. That's the full declaration.
Thank you so much. Mr. Thompson.
I'm uniquely qualified. I've been a financial professional for 23 years. I understand the principles of accounting, finance, economics, and business. My job currently is I sit down with clients and I plan for their future. Planning is a big part of what I do. I help people reach their financial goals. That skill set is not currently present on the City Council. And so, you know, I have a unique perspective on how taxes affect people. I have a unique perspective on how taxes and regulations affect business, and why businesses are leaving Idaho Falls for other places like Ammon in the county. I would be your watchman on the tower to make sure that your tax dollars are being spent wisely and that they are being seen as sacred.
Thank you so much. I want to give one more thank you to all of you guys for coming and responding to these questions. I am now going to hand over the floor to our Master of Ceremonies, Lily Browning.
Thank you to all of the audience members for attending tonight. If you grabbed a brochure, you would notice the little purple bit on the back. That is the when and how to vote in the election. Election day is November 2nd. If you would like to speak with the candidates, they will be available to converse with in the Cyber Hall, which is through those double doors on your right. It is the big room with all the windows. This concludes the 2021 City Council Forum. Thank you so much.